In the last video, we set ourselves up so we could simply disconnect the client whenever the server is full and he's trying to join. But the problem with that was we would essentially kind of be removing ourselves from our lobby info and our player list, and then we would update it. So that means we were technically kind of removed from the server. That's one way to look at it. And that's not what we want. So what we can do to fix that, when we call disconnect client, it's called here. And then once the client has actually been disconnected via this, our notify client disconnected ends up firing. And this is what is actually going through and it's kind of disconnecting ourselves. So the reason for that is we're not actually setting the player index. So we'd call get player index, it's returning 0. Well, index 0 inside of player list is us. It's the host because that's where we set ourselves up and begin play here. We add ourselves initially. So we're the first element, element 0. So what we need to do, and I really need to clean this up a bit. You can see we set player index right here. So what I'm going to do is instead of going through all of this, what we can do is simply cast. Well, if this is the case, then we're going to cast the new client actor to a Nazi zombie beacon client, like so. And I'm going to just simply disconnect like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to set the player index for him. Let's do -1, meaning it's invalid. So whenever the client joins, we're going to set its player index to -1. Then we're going to disconnect them, calling our disconnect client function. This is going to run. It's going to disconnect the client. And once that happens, our notify client disconnect function runs. And this is where we need to do that check. So what we're going to do is at the very top, well, inside of this portion here, if client get player index, well, actually, let's do this right below it. Oops, did not mean to build. So if index equals -1, what we're going to do is literally just return. Because if we look up in our on client connected, we never actually add that client to the player list. So after everything is set, like we go through, okay, this is one client more than the maximum amount of players, we don't actually set or add them, so to speak, to our player list. So that means we don't have any index to remove. We're just simply going to check if it's -1. And if that's the case, we do nothing. We simply return. So now I'm going to go ahead and compile and give this a try. Gonna, not you, delete that server entry. I don't know why I keep doing that. It doesn't really make a difference anyways, because we overwrite it whenever we create a server. Okay, we compiled. Now let's test it. Set the host or max players to 1. Let's look in the database. Current players, max players 1. Let's try to connect. Kicked us to the main menu. I cannot seem to go back, so we may have locked ourselves up. All right, so our host crashed right when client was disconnected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test one more time. and see if that happens again. Which it did. So we have an issue somewhere. So let's look at it. Okay, so I think what the issue is, we are trying to access client. Let's see here. I want to print out a log and just try to step through this piece by piece. So getting disconnected layers index and returning. And let's see if we can make it that far. I'm also going to test and see if just a normal client disconnect locks it up as well. Ah, I'm an idiot because it's a uint 8. I did not think about that. That cannot be a negative value. That can only be a positive. So what we need to do is we need to set index to something like 999. I'm going to remove these logs. I don't know why I didn't think about that. And set the player index to 999 when he connects. Now we compile. And we should be good to go. Let's see, because we weren't accessing anything null, so it shouldn't really have mattered. Wait, uint 8. Uint 8, uint 8. That has I think 255 actually for the max value. Let's do 240. And compile. There we go. Just stupidity on my part of just not remembering. So, sorry about that. But hopefully, I don't know, maybe you learned something from that, who knows. So set the max players to 1. Right, good to go. Let's join it. Get kicked out. And we're still good. We're able to set stuff. So change the map to map 2. If it updates, it does. Client still cannot join. Let's update the max players to 2. And join. And here we are. So here's a message from the host. Here's one from the client. And everything is working a-okay. So now we fixed that little issue that we had, and that's great. So now, yeah, we are good to go. We are now set up and we can kick out any players that are, well, so we can no longer, well, we cannot go past our maximum amount of players. If we try to, it'll simply kick us out. And that's ultimately what we wanted. So now that that's over with, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here, and I will see you in the next video.